Welcome, everyone. Now, this is not your standard history lecture, okay? Think of this as a strategic manual. We're here to turn the Gandhian era from just another chapter in a book into a high-scoring asset for you. We're going to map out the entire game plan of the man who literally shook an empire, all without firing a single shot.
You know, everything that happened next, it all started with this one piece of advice. When M.K. Gandhi came back to India, his political mentor, Gopalakrishna Gokhale, didn't tell him to start a protest or give a speech. Nope, he said, listen. This simple instruction to just observe, well, it became the absolute foundation for his entire strategy.
All right, so here's our mission briefing for today. We're going to track Gandhi's journey step by step from a quiet observer to a revolutionary leader. We'll break down each phase of his campaign so it gets locked into your memory for good.
So every great campaign, whether it's military or political, it always kicks off with good intelligence, right? Well, this was Gandhi's reconnaissance phase.
So he arrives back in India, but instead of jumping onto the political stage, what does he do? He spends a whole year traveling, all across India, and he sees the crushing poverty with his own eyes. He's not just sightseeing, he's diagnosing the country's problems, turning simple observation into his most powerful weapon. Okay, so after a full year of listening, Gandhi was finally ready to act. But he didn't just launch some massive nationwide movement. No, he started small. He prototyped his new weapon, Satyagraha, in 3 very specific local conflicts. Think of them as test labs.
And this brings us to a classic exam question. Seriously, the order of these first 3 movements is a favorite for examiners. So how do you make absolutely sure you get it right every single time?
Well, the key is this super simple memory trick. Just remember that Gandhi ate cake in India. C is for Champaran in 1917. A is for Ahmedabad in February 1918. And KE is for Kheda in March 1918. C-A-K. It locks that sequence in perfectly. Easy, right?
Now let's drill down on this C in our CAK. For Champaran, the most common exam trap is about who invited him. It wasn't the famous Rajendra Prasad, he actually joined later. The person who gets the credit is Rajkumar Shukla, a really persistent local farmer. And remember, this was Gandhi's very first act of civil disobedience in India.
Now, telling the A and the K apart is super important because they show just how flexible Gandhi was with his tactics. Even though they happened only a month apart, he used completely different tools. In Ahmedabad, for an industrial dispute, he used a hunger strike. In Kheda, for a farming issue, he used non-cooperation. This shows you he wasn't a one-trick pony. He tailored the strategy to the problem.
So, with 3 successful local tests under his belt, Gandhi was ready to scale up, big time. It was time to take his strategy from these small, local labs and launch it on the national stage.
And the year 1919, that was the trigger. That was the year that changed everything. First you have the really oppressive Rowlatt Act, and then the horrific Jallianwala Bagh massacre. These 2 events convinced Gandhi that the British system wasn't just flawed, it was fundamentally unjust. The time for trying to cooperate was over.
The movement just exploded with the slogan Swaraj in 1 year. But then, when a protest turned violent at a place called Chauri Chaura in 1922, Gandhi did something nobody expected. He called the whole thing off, just stopped it in its tracks. You see, for him, nonviolence wasn't just a tactic, it was an unbreakable rule, even if it meant stopping a successful movement and ending up in jail himself.
Okay, now this next phase, it's not about failure. A lot of people see his arrest and think the movement fell apart. No. Think of this period as a strategic pause. It was time to regroup, build up political power, and get ready for the next big push. And during this regrouping, 2 incredibly important things happened. First, in 1924, Gandhi served as president of the Indian National Congress for the one and only time. Then, in 1929, at the Lahore session, the goal itself got a major upgrade to Purna Swaraj, complete independence. The objective was now crystal clear, no more negotiating.
And what a comeback it was. In 1930, Gandhi relaunches the fight with the civil disobedience movement, and his choice of symbol? Pure genius, salt. By marching to the sea to make salt illegally, he took a simple, everyday item and turned it into a powerful, global symbol of defiance against the British monopoly.
And now we enter the endgame. The world is at war. The situation in India has reached a boiling point.
This is it, the final all-or-nothing push for freedom.
It's 1942. World War II is raging across the globe. The British Empire is weaker than ever, and Gandhi sees this critical window of opportunity. He launches the Quit India movement, and just listen to the change in tone. The slogan isn't Swaraj in 1 year anymore. It's an ultimatum. Do or die. He basically said, we will either free India or die trying. There was absolutely no turning back.
Okay, we have covered the entire campaign from start to finish. Now, let's run a final debrief to really consolidate this timeline and lock the whole sequence in for total recall.
Let's quickly run through that first phase again. It starts with Gandhi's arrival in 15. Then you've got the cake movements in 17 and 18, where he's testing his ideas. The big turning point is 19 with the Rowlatt Act. That triggers the first mass movement, non-cooperation, in 1920, which then gets stopped in 22 at Chauri Chaura. See the flow?
And now for the second half, the regrouping phase. With Gandhi's presidency in 24 and that huge call for Purna Swaraj in 29, this all sets the stage for the Dandi March in 1930. And then, after a brief pause, it's the final push with Quit India in 42, which leads directly to independence in 1947. You can see how each step logically leads to the next.
So here's how you actually use this in an exam. When you get one of those tricky chronology questions, use the elimination method. Find events you know for certain and use them as anchors. For example, you know the Pune Pact is relatively early, in 32, and the cabinet mission is really late, in 46. By just locking in those start and end points, you can usually get rid of the wrong answers and figure out the correct order.
And that's our debrief, mission success. Together, we've mapped the entire narrative arc from 1915 all the way to 1947. We've installed that sea-cake mnemonic, and we've pointed out the key exam traps. You are now fully equipped to tackle this crucial period of history.
I'll leave you with one final thought. Gandhi's whole strategy was built on this idea of Satyagraha, or truth force, the belief that truth itself has a power that can overcome any injustice. So the question is, what does a concept like that mean to you, and where could you possibly apply it in the world we live in today? Something to think about.